Hey everyone, so today I wanted to talk about something that affects not only me personally, but lots of people, and that's chronic illness. In 2011, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease called Sjogren's syndrome. Now, Sjogren's syndrome is one of many autoimmune diseases, and we're seeing people get diagnosed more frequently than ever right now. So you may be familiar with some other autoimmune diseases, for example, like rheumatoid arthritis or lupus. There are quite a few. So it's not uncommon for people to face these challenges, and today I wanted to talk about what my journey is or has been, and also different ways to deal with chronic illness. So even though some people may not have an autoimmune disease, you may be dealing with chronic illness, and these are illnesses defined that illnesses that you're living with on a long-term basis. So I live with Sjogren's syndrome every day, and I have continued to find a way to make a life and make a career and make the best life out of it. It isn't always easy, but that's a part of the challenge, and I wanted to talk about this and share all of this with you today. Okay, so some of the hallmark symptoms of Sjogren's syndrome is dry eyes and dry mouth. So that's one of the differentiators between Sjogren's and lots of other autoimmune diseases. So with autoimmune diseases, some of the typical symptoms are joint pain and fatigue. So those are symptoms that you can also get with Sjogren's syndrome. Those are symptoms that I experience with Sjogren's syndrome. But those extra special friends that come along with it are dry eyes and dry mouth. So you may say, how does that affect your life? So for example, for vision, it's very difficult for me to wear contact lenses. My eyes are just too dry to wear those. Some people experience dryness to the point where they have to plug their tear ducts. Now you would say, oh, well, tear ducts would help, right? But your eyes are so dry that your tear ducts continue to run and run and run. So you're constantly crying. And so you have to plug those in order to stop that symptom from going. So it can be very uncomfortable to the point where you would get mouth sore. So as you can see, an extreme level of Sjogren's syndrome or extreme flare-up or extreme symptoms can start to really affect your life. So one of the issues with autoimmune disease is that they're very tricky to diagnose. So a lot of people spend an average of 7 years before they get their diagnosis. For me, I was right in that 7-year window where I literally got too sick to continue to play professional sports before I had a diagnosis. Now, of course, I felt off, and I would go to the doctor and say, I don't feel great, and especially someone like me who's really in touch with their physicality, because it's so important. I need everything to be 100%, hopefully, to do my best on the court. And so I had to get so sick that I wasn't well enough to play and continue my life to get a diagnosis. So of course, one of my goals in life is to help people get diagnosed and feel better sooner. And in April was Sjogren's Syndrome Awareness Month. So that was a great month for people to be aware of not only Sjogren's, but all autoimmune diseases, and to understand what symptoms they may be having and how to get diagnosed so you can get treated right away. So for me, what I do for myself to combat my own symptoms, there's some pretty basic things, right? So outside of course, seeing a medical doctor, super important. I'm not your medical doctor. I'm just sharing with you my experiences. So it's important to see a medical doctor and get a proper diagnosis so you know what you're treating. Sometimes when you have an autoimmune disease, you can have more than one. Sometimes they come with friends that you don't even want at your house. You know that friend that comes and they knock on the door and invite themselves in? That kind of thing. So sometimes they do come with friends, so you may be living with more than one autoimmune disease and you want to get properly diagnosed so you can treat them. For me, there's some super basic things that are super helpful. Staying hydrated. You know, autoimmune disease is about inflammation in your body, so if you're staying hydrated, that helps your inflammation. Getting enough sleep. I know it sounds basic, but when you don't have enough sleep, that's when our body starts to trigger and our immune system is not being refreshed and restored. Sometimes sleeping can be an issue with autoimmune disease. If you're having joint pain, it can be very difficult to sleep in the night. So being able to treat some of those symptoms like joint pain and other things, some of your pain levels is also very important. So that way you can be able to do things like get a good night's sleep and continue hopefully with your regular day. Having a healthy diet is super important. So if you are out there and you're already not feeling well and you're starting to eat things that are not healthy, lots of sugar, lots of processed foods that are not really actually energizing your body, because let's keep it basic. Energizing your body is important. It's just like if you go and put the wrong gas in your car's not going to run. So it's the really same concept with your body. Go ahead and add lots of fruits and vegetables and grains. That's also going to help with that inflammatory process that your body is going through. That's going to help you a ton, super important. Also, supplementation can really help. So when you're talking to your doctor, get your blood checked. See if you're low on certain sorts of vitamins, and that can also help keeping those vitamin levels up, keeping your body in that right level. That can also give you some boost. So sometimes it's some low-hanging fruit that you can grab at that will really help you to be able to feel a little bit better. Every little bit helps. So you can add a little here, a little there, you can start to hopefully feel some genuine health. So one thing that I would say, a little advice, and this really helped me when going through chronic illness, when you're dealing with issues that you're not used to, when you can't be who you want to be because you're being held back by your physical health, is remember that everything counts, and being able to do even something is better than nothing. There are some days where you can't do anything, and that day won't be every day. There were days where I just wasn't able to train the way I wanted to, and I couldn't run, or even if I could only run for 5 minutes, I thought that's better than no minutes. You know, and as a high-level athlete, most athletes can run longer than 5 minutes. But if that's all I had that day, I said it'll all add up. If I can do 5 minutes today and 10 minutes tomorrow, and even the next day it's no minutes, it'll all add up. So think about the things you can accomplish, and instead of what you can't accomplish. And that's what I started telling myself. Just think about the things you can accomplish and don't be afraid of what you can't. And that started to help me to see the glass as half full instead of half empty or completely dry. Autoimmune diseases are characterized by flare-ups. So you can go through periods where you feel okay, and then you can go through periods where you have a flare-up, where suddenly your symptoms come on like gangbusters and you're feeling awful. So obviously, how to know when you have a flare-up? You're gonna actually feel bad. So unfortunately, that's the only way to describe it, that you aren't gonna be feeling your best, and you're gonna feel a marked difference between how you feel on a baseline level and then how you feel at that point. So a flare-up can mean like intense joint pain. A flare-up can mean intense fatigue, and depending on the autoimmune disease, it can have different symptoms. So that's why it's important to know exactly what your category is, or if you're dealing with obviously other chronic illnesses too, then you need to talk to your doctor. Now, sometimes your baseline level can also not always be great as well. So you've got to pay attention to how you're feeling and what that is, so that way you can communicate that with your doctors, and that way you can be able to tell them how you're feeling on a baseline level, and then when you're having a flare-up. So everyone's life is affected in different ways with autoimmune diseases. For me, my life was affected that it really obviously affected my work and my profession. I wasn't able to play tennis anymore, and even before I had to completely stop, and I was out of the game for maybe 9 months. I also had challenges playing my best tennis, and I didn't know why. So of course that was frustrating, especially when you have a high expectation of yourself, really high standards, and you aren't able to meet those. That can be very challenging and frustrating. So of course, how it affects you, first of all, is very frustrating, especially when you are experiencing limits and you can't do everything that you wanted to do before. Also, I had to learn how to pace myself. So that was important. My life doesn't involve a lot of pacing, but there are certain things that I have to do. I really should get sleep. I've learned how to not read emails at night. Just don't read them, read them in the morning. So I've made some different rules for myself to hopefully help my stress level. And I don't think I follow those rules the way I should, but I'm working on it. What else? Especially in the beginning, I really had to learn how to rest. I think there were points where I would just push myself so much that I would literally crash and couldn't get up. I literally couldn't get up. So I had to learn how to stop doing that and stop getting to the crash, so that way I didn't reach the point where, I couldn't get out of bed. So I think there's certain people, obviously you can have so much joint pain that it's very difficult to dress yourself. So those are challenges that as an adult, you want to be able to dress yourself. Those are simple things that we take for granted in life. Some people experience so much fatigue that things like dressing themselves is very difficult. And that can be a very challenging thing. But of course, we focus on the things we can accomplish and not on the things that we can't. Another thing that people with chronic illness or autoimmune diseases deal with is that you look fine. Look at me. I look like the perfect picture of health. You would not look at me and say, that woman has an autoimmune disease. So I think a challenge that people deal with all the time is, you look fine, you must not be sick. And you're gonna deal with some people who aren't able to understand what you're going through. But what's important to understand is that you don't need everyone to understand. It's important, hopefully, for your close family and for your family members to support you. That's extremely important. If you aren't getting that support, you're going to have to go to those close people in your family or family members who do support you. And that's extremely important, because living with an autoimmune disease or chronic illness, you look fine, but you aren't fine. So this was a really special moment for me to share with you some of my life experiences with autoimmune disease and chronic illness. And of course, I'd love your comments below, because I'd like to know other ways that I can help you get through this journey. If you're dealing with it, or if someone that is in your life is dealing with it, or someone that you love, please let me know, because I want to be able to provide content that is really empowering for you. Of course, you can check out the Sjogren Syndrome Foundation and put the link down in the bio, and also a link to a few other associations that can definitely help you get through this and be maybe a starting point for your journey if this is a start for you. So obviously, I hope you are well. And if you are not well, I hope that you are able to deal with it and be able to get the help that you need. I hope this will help. And I love you guys, and I'll see you next week. And please, please, please take care.